Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Vaishnava Sangha, glorifying the Supreme Lord. So we'll start with our invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, text number 61. So this is a chapter where Diti vows to kill King Indra. Labdva tadantaram shakro nidrapahratta chetasam dite pravishta uddaram yogesho yogamayayam. Finding this fault, Indra, who has all the mystic powers, the yoga siddhis such as Anima and Lagima, entered Diti's womb while she was unconscious, being fast asleep. Purport: a perfectly successful yogi is expert in 8 kinds of perfection. By one of them, called Anima Siddhi, he can become smaller than an atom, and in that state, he can enter anywhere. With this yogic power, Indra entered the womb of Diti while she was pregnant. I will also read verse number 62. Chakarta saptabda garbham vajrena kanaka prabham rudantam saptadaikaikam marodir ititan punah. After entering Diti's womb, Indra, with the help of his thunderbolt, cut into 7 pieces her embryo, which appeared like glowing gold. In 7 places, 7 different living beings began crying. Indra told them, "Do not cry," and he cut each of them into 7 pieces again. Purport: Srila Viswanatha Chakravarti Thakura remarks that Indra, by his yogic power, first expanded the body of the one Marut into 7, and then when he cut each of the 7 parts of the original body into pieces, there were 49. When each body was cut into 7, other living entities entered the new bodies, and thus they were like plants which become separate entities when cut into various parts and planted on a hill. The first body was one, and when it was cut into many pieces, many other living entities entered the new bodies. So we will discuss this current context and see what lessons we have for to learn. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padayam Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedantam Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the current context is that Diti insisted Kashyapa Muni that somehow or other child has to be conceived now. So Kashyapa Muni, because he is an intelligent person and he realized that if I postpone this agenda, this will become a little complicated. So he had to agree to copulate with Diti, even though her request was genuine, her intent and the instance she wanted, both of them were highly unrecommended. In spiritual life, one of the things that we get to learn is about not only know what to do, we also get to know why to do and how to do. If somebody is interested in just trying to do things in his own way, by one's own whims and fancies, by hook or crook, come what may, that mentality will lead to detrimental path. So this whole episode of Kashyapa begetting children from Diti is a very instructive lesson. Because of this improper conduct, Daityas are born. So Prabhupada explains that a woman's nature is generally of self-interest. Verse number 42, purport Prabhupada writes, and hence they should be protected by all means so that their natural inclination is handled. It's a very sensitive point. It may be misconstrued by modern women and modern devotee women as well. So this science of Krishna consciousness need some honest, open-minded deliberation. This context of Diti insisting Kashyapa Muni for a progeny as a wife always have all the rights to demand her needs to her husband. But what they should not forget is that every time when a rights is claimed, the rights to be awarded, that whomever she is asking the rights from has to have certain processes and premises. Just because I desired I should get something is never a first class dealing. A child demand something from the father or mother. It is full on rights of the child. But as we talk about disciplining the child, what do we say? Whilst the child is demanding, the parent have full rights to regulate as well as help the child understand that it is not one way or no way. It is always something that is beyond what I desire. The science of Krishna consciousness, as explained by great acharyas, is very subtle, and these subtle aspects, if they are not understood, if they are partially understood, will have a long-term impact. In terms of the proportion of the mistake vis-a-vis the action, the quantitative proportion of someone's mistake will be very, very small percentage. But the importance of that is something to be weighed. The normal materialistic logic is, of 25 things that I have done, hardly one or a part of one is only not correct, rest everything is in place. So why make such a big scene? So in spiritual context, measurement is never quantitative alone or never quantitative. It is not about the amount of food that is offered matters. It is not about the amount of work that is done matters. It is not about the amount of money that we give is that matters. It is always about the attitude, the intention underlying such a dealings. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, when he came to our local temple in one of the earlier visits, he was discussing to everyone about fundraising for the temple. We have a new temple, almost the final stage to be inaugurated. So he was encouraging us to catch up on the last leg, and at that time he made a very profound point. He said, Krishna does not see how much you give to him. Krishna sees what you hold back with you when you are giving it to him. So it is a very subtle, profound, and an important point. So people may argue, the so-called modern men, women can argue that what's wrong if Diti wanted to copulate and beget a child, and she wanted to actually, settle scores with Indra. Because, Indra, she, in the verse number 37, you will see, "Oh my husband, great soul, I have now lost my sons. If you want to give me a benediction, I ask you for an immortal son who can kill Indra. I pray for this because Indra, with the help of Vishnu, has killed my two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu." So her motivation for begetting the child is just not lust. It is just not her wife rights. It is about vengeance. It is about settling scores. So in our understanding about this context, we need to know that Diti's mistake was about, in terms of proportion to her demands, it may be very insignificant from a normal eye, but it is highly significant from a spiritual eye. When Daksha performed his fire sacrifice, he made so many wonderful arrangements. He created a fantastic arena, very well decorated, called so many guests, prepared wonderful feasts, and had a very big event. Just that he did not invite Lord Shiva. So from a management perspective, it is some very insignificant or a small thing. But later, Brahma explains in 4th canto, 6th chapter, that happened to be the basic reason for all the debacle that happened, so that everybody learn a lesson. So as usual, we are going to learn some set of lessons from this current context. So we will learn 3 lessons in this context to understand some application for our personal lives. The very first lesson is about the importance of understanding the intent, instance, process associated with every service that we perform. If the intent and at what instance and what process to be associated with that, if they are not properly understood, how much ever you may have rights, the net result is going to be pretty detrimental. At least I can give you few results, few examples. Number 1 example is about Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi had full rights to demand, to redeem the boon Dasharath Maharaj gave to her. In terms of her asking to redeem those 2 boons that he gave to Kaikeyi, there was no rider that Dasharath Maharaj gave. But then, the purpose for which she asked, the way that she asked, the time that she asked, happened to be the downfall of her character, and eventually she became a widow. In the assembly of Pandavas and Kauravas, when they were playing the gambling match, when they had lost, when Pandavas had lost, there are always a reason that can be given why they can be taken, because they kept on losing and they bet on the match and they have to lose. So Duryodhana can easily argue, so that there's nothing wrong on my part. But the intent and the instance and the way he went ahead and doing that is highly condemned. In our devotional life, we need to always understand this aspect of intent, instance, and the process associated. Our Krishna consciousness journey underlies on certain values, certain methodology, certain underlying principles. Krishna, Vaishnavas always refer to what are we intending. That is why Krishna is called Bhavagrahi Janardana. When you say Bhavagrahi Janardana, even if your pronunciation, even if your ingredients, even if your sequence in terms of what you are trying to do as a procedure, there may be some anomalies, but because the intent was correct, Krishna gives us full brownie points. The instance here refers to at what time of the day and what time of the life, what is being asked for. So the instance refers to the objectivity and associated time why certain things is being sought. A person who is a responsible father, a person who is in a very responsible position, without fulfilling his responsibility, if he tries to talk about Siddhanta and try to walk away from his responsibility, then that is condemned. And a very vital example of that is Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna's intent was great, but Arjuna's instance in which that intent was shown, in a manner it was shown, it was questioned by Krishna. What was Arjuna's intent? Arjuna intended everybody need to be taken along, and there need not be any violence, and there should not be any damage. He had a genuine intent. But the instance was, all those iterations have got over because Krishna did that. Krishna did have a conversation with the Kauravas to at least partake something with Pandavas. So the instance in which Arjuna was standing is to protect Dharma through the war only. That was the last option that Krishna had settled. And that's why the war was commenced. The war was going to commence. And at that instance, Arjuna was not expected to speak some, Siddhanta which is misdirected. That is why Krishna is challenging Arjuna, Asosyanan Vachosattvam Prajnavadam Shabashase Kata Suna Kata Sumscha Nanucho Shandi Pandita. So when Krishna is asking Arjuna this question, that whilst you are speaking like a Brahmana, you seems to be missing a point. So it is extremely important for us to know at what instance this expression of intelligence needs to be shown, in what manner. It's very important. Misdirected love, misdirected care, misdirected surrender, they are all something that we need to be careful. So here in Diti's case, the instance in which she is asking for the boon to be fulfilled, the time of the day that she is asking in the Sandhya Kal, so the time of the day in which she is asking this is something that's very risky, because it is explained, if you had followed the earlier shlokas, verse number 49, there are certain activities which are not considered as auspicious. And those auspiciousness are defined based on certain associated consciousness. So this whole aspect of instance is something that we need to be very careful. When we talk about deity worship standard, we always talk about cleanliness. We are talking about the punctuality. We always talk about the importance of doing things according to the recommended process. So you cannot, especially in an installed altar, installed deities, you cannot do things just because we are, we having right intent. I will do the way I want. There is another completely different philosophy which is called Raganuga, which supersedes rules and regulation. But so long as let us limiting our conversation to Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, at least as of now, let us limit our conversation because we are all, at least I am in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti stage. So we will have to operate within the boundaries of rules and regulations. Especially the way Srila Prabhupada taught us to perform devotional services, always within the framework of rules and regulations. Even though as we progress further in Krishna consciousness, rules and regulations are compromised or relaxed, and several layers of emotions are going to be only considered. But in general, in a specific context of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhaktas, so we need to always talk about rules and regulations, and otherwise we will be classified as sahajiyas. We will have extra familiarity and over confidence on certain things, and we may land up in doing mistakes. The third aspect is process. Here, when I say process, I mean to say that I cannot jump guns. I cannot take things for granted in my hand. I cannot do things whimsically. I cannot decide on behalf of someone. I will have to operate through some lines of authority. I will have to obey to certain authority. I will have to function within some authority. I will have to escalate things and move things towards certain, sequence and process. Just because I like, just because I wanted, just because I wish to do something, I will take things up in my hand is not something that is allowed. One of the reasons that Pandavas are glorious and Kauravas are condemned, it is not that Pandavas did not make mistake. In their transactional administrative things, they also took some wrong decisions. But they are ready to get themselves corrected, and they were always ready to operate under an authority. In case of Kauravas, especially in case of Duryodhana, he was always wanting to keep the authority with himself and did not want to consult his seniors because he thinks he knows everything. There is a very interesting story in this connection. One time, Duryodhana and Yudhishthira Maharaj, they were in front of Dronacharya. This is after their graduation is over in their academy. Dronacharya called both of them and said, "My dear boys, your training is over, and now I will ask for my Guru Dakshina." So both of them, as obedient as they are to their Guru, at least Duryodhana showed some respect to Dronacharya. So both of them said, "My dear Gurudev, please order us what Guru Dakshina you want, we will, offer it to you." So Dronacharya said to Duryodhana that please get me a soul, a candidate who is better than you. And I will give you 1 week time. And he turned towards Yudhishthira Maharaj and he said, please get me one candidate who is lower than you. I will give you 1 week too. So both of them said, sure, Gurudev, we will come back to you with your desired Guru Dakshina. After 1 week, both of them came empty-handed. And both of them were upset. So Dronacharya asked Duryodhana, what happened? Where is my Guru Dakshina? So Duryodhana said, sir, I went and searched for people all over. Whomever I saw and wherever I went, I always felt I am better than others. So I couldn't locate even one person who is better than me. Okay. So what about you, Yudhishthira? What happened to you? Why are you empty-handed? Say, my dear Gurudev, wherever I went, to whomever I saw, I always saw something better in them than me. So I am not sure if there is anyone who is lower than me. So Dronacharya said, okay, friends, okay, boys, I will solve your problem right now. Duryodhana, the candidate that you are looking for is right in front of you. That is Yudhishthira Maharaj. And my dear Yudhishthira, the candidate you are looking for my Guru Dakshina is right in front of you. That is Duryodhana. So the idea is that the process of trying to do something, it is not about the net result. It is about how do we go about in getting the result. In typical software engineering language, we say this: all compiled code, all compiled source codes are not considered as the best programming. The code may compile, the program may run, but still the product can be classified as bad. It is about the approach, it is about the methodology, it is about the process in which a science is handled. So my first reflection in this current context is that we need to learn to understand in our devotional life what is our intent and what instance we are trying to get things done and what process is to be followed and how they are supposed to be followed is something that as a basic student of Krishna consciousness, we should be knowing. If we do not know this, then we will have to really get to know to that level even for our normal functioning in this world. So our journey in Krishna consciousness is not something that is to prove a point. The journey in Krishna consciousness is not something to establish what I desired is accomplished. It is about how you approach to. When I was in my engineering, I used to, I had attended one interview of a multinational company. So they had asked for an written examination, and they had specifically mentioned in the examination that please, when you are solving a question, it was an arithmetical, question. You have to delineate all the processes, all the steps. You will be evaluated based on not only the end answer. It is always all about the process that you followed to arrive at that answer. So in Krishna consciousness also, it matters. The converse is true. If somebody has taken care of their intent very well, somebody has taken care of making follow the process clearly, if somebody has taken care that if they are, operating according to time, place, and circumstances, desha, kala, patra, then they are definitely, even though they may apparently not be so highly qualified, but they will definitely get to see the results manifesting. The seed of the Bhakti Lata beach will start to sprout. Otherwise, the weed which is against Bhakti Lata beach will only sprout, and we may assume them as Bhakti's growth. Which leads to my second reflection. The idea here is that as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj used to always say, we had celebrated his 150th Vyas Puja yesterday. I'm sure you all would have celebrated in your own capacity. That in devotional life, in devotional journey, one need to be careful about self-introspection, and he is a very strong propagator of that. So in his commentary to the first verse of Vaishnava Ke, Dushta Mana Tumi Kishera Vaishnava. So he is saying, what kind of a devotee are you? In that he is saying that along with Bhakti Lata Bij, there is always some weeds which grow, and some bij, some sapling look exactly like Bhakti sapling. Along with Bhakti sapling, there are similar sapling but which are weeds. So if by just looking at some external quotient, just by looking at some external accomplishment, by just looking at some external scenario, if somebody is classified as a great devotee, somebody is classified as a Mahabhagavata, somebody is classified as some successful devotional person, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says, beware. Paundraka claimed himself to be the real Vasudeva. He mocked at, Dwarakadish. He said to his men, to his followers, saying that, look at Dwarakadish, what a fake guy he is. I am the real Vasudeva. I am the real Krishna. I am the real controller. He used to have, extra 2 hands attached to him and used to flaunt around with 4 hands. And some of his followers, stupid enough to believe in him. And they say, Jai Jai Vasudeva to Paundraka. His story is very nicely described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, and eventually Krishna has to chop his head off. Not only Paundraka's head off, but all the more that Krishna chopped off the heads of all the followers who said Jai Jaikar to Paundraka. So the second reflection here is that in the journey of Krishna consciousness, one need to be extremely careful to not to get misrecognizing, not to understand a weed to be a seed of devotion and forget to water the real seed of Krishna consciousness. In our devotional journey, that is why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one need to perform devotional service under the able care of an expert devotee who is able to differentiate between the seed and the weed. In this case, Diti had Kashyapa Muni. Kashyapa Muni anticipated the problem. Kashyapa Muni knew what Diti was demanding is something wrong. But also Kashyapa Muni, like Dasharatha Maharaja, couldn't deny because of the vows that he had given and because of the demands of his wife. Because his wife, if he had not agreed to her needs, things would have gone out of control and furthermore, damage would have happened. So sometimes to protect one dharma, one aspect of dharma, some major mistakes take place. So it is important that in our devotional journey, that even though we may apparently fail, let us learn to follow the authorities. It is said that it is better to fail in our desires and our aspirations whilst following self-realized soul, rather than succeeding in our own personal aspirations by not following self-realized soul. So this apparent failure is called a success, and the apparent success will be classified as the greatest failure. So in Krishna consciousness, the definition of success is not about the net result. It is about the way the net result has been, sought. The way a person had, walked in that journey. So my second reflection hence is one need to be very careful in identifying, recognizing the difference between bhakti and veed. If I can say that in Hindi, bhakti and bhakti jaisa, a look-alike. In Kali Yuga, look-alikes are there. In fact, there are many fake gold that glitters better than gold. That is why all that glitters are not gold. So beware to recognize the right one. The reason is Kali Chela, the followers of Kali, will be in the garb of a devotee. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, one of the greatest contribution towards our sampradaya is to expose them. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's one of the greatest contribution was about exposing them. So our acharyas were very strong, very bold, very straightforward, and they were very clear about what is the importance and purity of this process, and they stuck to it. So in our Krishna conscious journey, we need to be careful enough to allow the control of our special important decision taking under the hands of self-realized souls. Not that they will decide for us, or at least they will guide us to take right decision. Even for the war in the Mahabharata, it was Arjuna who took the decision, but Krishna gave him enough intelligence to take the decision. So if I can summarize this second reflection, I would like to say that every practicing devotee should be an independent, thoughtful, sincere follower rather than a whimsical follower. Independent, thoughtful, sincere follower meaning, why independent? The ownership, accountability and responsibility is taken by the individual, not to put a blame on anybody else. Thoughtful being that he understands what his shortcomings are, what are all his weaknesses are. In medical science, they always say, a doctor, a qualified doctor, even though he is qualified in the science of medical science, he would still not take self-prescription or perform any surgery to his near and dear ones, because he would tend to be biased. You tend to be, taking decisions which are not fully in favor of the process. So hence it is important that in our Krishna conscious journey, we tend to be very careful in giving the control of guiding us and informing, taking a very well-informed decision. So thoughtful being that I will not fall prey to my own demands, rather I would depend upon the directions of my senior. And sincere being that it is something that we will have to, as an individual practitioner, we will have to inculcate. Because for us to go back home, back to Godhead, It is our call, our choice, our decision. It is between me, my Gurudev, Krishna, and Bhagavatam. Rest, everybody else in this world, they are the ones who are going to be in the gallery, standing around, cheering for us, shouting for us, cursing for us, crying for us, or whatever that may be. But we are the Maidan. We are the ones who are supposed to be the doer. So, as individuals, we should be independent, thoughtful, sincere practitioners so that we will be able to recognize between bhakti versus weed. So, that is why I always recommend a formula called honest, guided introspection is needed for every practicing devotee. This honest, guided introspection, all the three components are important. Introspection is very important. Guided introspection is very important. Honestly guided introspection. So all the three are important. If somebody is honestly introspecting but not guided, there is a problem. If they are guided and introspecting, if they are not honest, this is not going to be complete. If somebody is honest and guided, but if he is not introspecting, there is going to be a problem. So from that perspective, in our journey to progress in Krishna consciousness, we should be able to do this, honest, guided introspection. The third and last reflection is about this current, two shlokas, wherein Viswanatha Chakravarti Thakura is giving a very scientific information. Because there are a lot of people who have logical reasoning, who comes and questions that how come that 7 soul became 49 souls. Because we tend to ask literal questions, we tend to ask literal, statements without realizing that Krishna consciousness is a multi-dimensional subject matter. So, Krishna consciousness subject matter is something that needs the intelligence of multi-dimensional personalities to come and clarify. I will explain this reflection with an engineering example. Those of you who are engineers, or those of you who have some sense of three-dimensional projections. Basically, if you project a three-dimensional object in a two-dimensional plane, we are losing one dimension of that in the projection. To make it simple, I will tell you a simple example. If I hold an object, say for example, if I hold a water bottle in my hand, if I stretch my hand and hold the water bottle is being held in a three-dimensional space. There is x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, and over and above that, there are attributes to the object that I am holding on to. Suppose, for example, if I throw a light on this and I project them and I look at the shadow, and I ask somebody to come and look at only the shadow and not showing the real image, and ask them to present and describe about the object that I am holding in my hand. The projected image from them, only to the extent I could comprehend, I will be able to explain what I am holding. Because I have not seen the original, because I am not exposing the real object to the third person, by just looking at the projection, by just looking at the shadow, he will call it as a rectangle object, he will call it as a spherical object, he will call it as some sort of a tall object. He will explain in his own ways. But definitely, because he has not seen it, he will not know the color of it. He will not know the depth and the creativity that is gone into the impression that is on the water bottle. So those attributes are gone, and there's a larger possibility that they will not be able to understand. The reason I'm saying this is spiritual science, spiritual subject matter is a higher dimensional science. When the higher dimensional science, when they are read, heard and analyzed from a limited understanding without the help of the higher source of knowledge, which is self-realized souls, then what happens is that we are going to analyze and debate, discuss, conclude based on each of our interpretation on what we see in the shadow. Unless or otherwise, you meet the person who is holding on to the object and created that shadow, you will definitely not be able to say every attribute of this. So one of the reasons why we go to the self-realized soul is they not only explain the shadow, they'll explain the source, and they will also explain about the finer aspects of the product or the object that they are holding on to. So if I can put this example in Krishna conscious context, the science of Krishna consciousness from the modern science perspective may not answer every aspect of the modern science, but when they are seen from the eyes of acharyas who have seen the truth, who are carrying the truth from ages, we will be able to get full information. So several places, Sridhara Swami, Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, all the great personalities have very nicely stepped down to our level, knowing that what all questions that we may ask, what all doubts we may have, what all the areas where we may, misconstrue something, and to avoid them, they have given us an explanation. So this concept of how one embryo became 7 and 7 eventually became 49, and how each of them are individual souls is something very nicely explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura in that shloka number 62, where he says that whilst Indra entered Diti's womb using his Yoga Shakti, using his Shakti of mystic power, Yoga Siddhi, Anima, Mahima, Lagima, Shakti, he could enter into that and he could cut them into pieces and eventually, broke them into further pieces. So these are all transcendental science, and in the modern, a similar scenario has happened in case of Kauravas. So some people say this as cloning, some people say this as in different modern science, but the reference to such scientific scenario has been there ages before. So Bhagavatam is not some mental concoction or somebody's dream, somebody's concocted information. This is also a science, but it needed some clarifications and explanations by some self-realized souls so that we understand. So that the third reflection is that what has happened, how the 49 Maruds are appearing has been very nicely explained by our Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, who says that all of them are individual souls and each of them are, eventually going to support and, be part of Indra. So, I mean, at least they are trying to address to Indra that you are like my brother. So why are you trying to, kill? Because Diti and Aditi have same husband, and Indra was born out of Aditi. That is why they are all called Adityas. And Diti happened to be a stepmother, aunt to Indra. So the children born in the womb of Diti happened to be cousin brothers. So from that perspective, there is a reason why these Maruds are asking Indra that what is he trying to do and what is his intent. So he says that Indra is now going to, correspond with them, saying that if you are really considering me as your brother, if you are considering me as your, as your well-wisher, there is nothing for you to fear. So you'll discuss that context in your next class. So I will stop here. That we had 3 sets of reflections, and through which we had explained this current context. The first reflection had been in our lives, You always need to understand about intent, instance, and processes to be followed. The reason that is Krishna consciousness is a very subtle subject matter. And the second reflection is that somehow or other we need to learn to differentiate between bhakti and weed, and hence eventually we all have to be an independent, thoughtful, and sincere followers. And last but not least, the science of Krishna consciousness is a multi-dimensional science. They should be seen from the eyes of self-realized souls who explains every scenario, and that way there is nothing that is not making sense in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are way beyond our material science comprehension. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaurav Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Any questions or comments? Happy to respond.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Such a nice class reflecting upon the strength of our Vedic sciences and how strong they, how advanced they are, that even the material scientists still in the realm of material level, the material energy, and still unable to conquer the depths of the mind. Mind and intelligence also are in the material realm. Even that also they are struggling with different ways. Freud is doing something, then that is also based on some arguments which are definitely can be decimated with the solid Vedic arguments. So even they are not able to gauge those the levels that the Vedic scientists were, and forget about the higher levels of intelligence and spiritual levels. So nice about reflecting upon the strength of the Vedic sciences, and your kind association and purifying association is very much valued. And thanks for the nectarian class. I joined a little bit late. Sorry about that. And could you please, Prabhuji, if you could, if you have some time, could you please throw some enlighten us about the glories of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj? So because we are still in the mood of assimilating the wealth that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's lineage brought to us. So could you please enlighten? Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your kind words and acknowledgement. And definitely Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's 150th Vyas Puja celebration is still going on, and it will go on for 1 year according to the senior Vaishnavas. They have decided to celebrate this like how we celebrated Srila Prabhupada's centennial celebration in 1996 for 1 long year. Maybe, in fact, some of us celebrated for more than 1 year. But at least the formal official celebration of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Vyas Puja is started, maybe a few weeks before, when all the, Gaudiya Vaishnava leaders, they assembled in Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi, where Honorable Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Vyasa Puja celebration. And at that time, they mentioned that the celebration will go all over the world, all over the year. So yes, we will definitely, glorify whatever little bit, not little bit, there are a lot more that we can say about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, but whatever little bit I know, I will share, which I had shared in my offering yesterday in the temple. So there are 6 aspects that I shared yesterday, as a part of my offering. Number 1, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is one of the important Vaishnava Acharyas in our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, who has set up what is the ethos of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Especially what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Goswamis had inaugurated, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has established, and somewhere what was going in downward spiral, he was kind of revived it and established So typically we say what lineage we belong, what khandan. Sometimes we are very proud of our lineage. That pride, that celebration, that success comes from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So the way he had done it is by very authentically and boldly presenting the Vaishnava Siddhanta and never compromised, diluted, which our dearest Srila Prabhupada also continued it. The second aspect with respect to glorifying Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is about his groundbreaking projects. Whatever he did, he has pioneered several initiatives. May it be, Janayu for so-called non-Brahmins, may it be for saffron cloths, may it be for saffron cloths to brahmachari. Several steps in terms of preaching initiatives and, making sure that a person travel overseas and set up Krishna consciousness centers and preach Krishna consciousness to the Western audience. So his vision that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said as a legacy, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired, the vision was corroborated very elaborately. I mean, every Acharya has contributed something, but these Acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, their names are in the Parampara list, profound names because of their pioneering several initiatives in the preaching mission. He had, chanted 100 crores. He has taken a sankalpa of 100 crores names of the Lord. So every day for 9.5 years, he chanted 3 lakh names of, the Lord before he inaugurated, initiated the preaching mission. That brings in the third point, that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is one of the important acharyas who gives equal importance to acharanam and prachara. So many times we miss the acharana aspect of it, self-practices, and we are very busy in preaching. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj used to be very strong and boldly condemn that somebody is trying to preach without, practice. So it is a very important learning for a person like me who tend to slip away and, think that by preaching we will be able to, satisfy, but by practice also it is important. So it's a reminder for, persons like me. And the fourth aspect of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj is very unique to him, is about his aspect of Yukta Vairagya. He is an Acharya who definitely demonstrated how utility, everything, every resources that comes your way should be utilized. He has taught, by his own personal life. He didn't shy away from, modern extravaganza. In fact, once he was coming in a Rolls-Royce car with a chauffeur and, into Krishna Balaram in Raman Reti in Vrindavan, where our current ISKCON temple is there. In that street is called Raman Reti. That place is very, special. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, once he came in a Rolls-Royce car in those days, in 1920 or some those days, nobody would, nobody would dare to have such facilities, because as a sannyasi, everybody thinks that, we are supposed to follow some ascetic mode. So he demonstrated how Yukta Vairagya, how one needs to learn to utilize Dautile. So that's the fourth aspect of it. The fifth aspect of it is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj demonstrated how Siddhanta, how one need to learn to, study, understand, assimilate, present Siddhanta. In Haridwar or Hrishikesh or someplace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave a class on first canto, first chapter, first shloka of Srimad Bhagvatam for 1 month. So similar to what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami in the Atma Ramasya Munaya. He said, everyone have to scrutinizingly study scriptures. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that I will demonstrate with one verse. And Mahaprabhu took one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and gave 64 different explanations. And at that time, at the end, he said, my dear Sanatana, this I did it for one verse, and I would encourage all my followers to do this for every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and scrutinizingly study. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj propounded and demonstrated a similar, principles. And last but not least, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave us a very wonderful gift, which is our dearest A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Because of Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, we could understand Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. So the gift that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave us is a gift for humanity at large for the next 10,000 years. And that's a contribution of an Acharya. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj had only one disciple, which is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj also said, even after all this endeavor, if one disciple takes my instruction seriously and applies it in my life, I will consider my mission successful, which our dearest Srila Prabhupada have demonstrated. I would, remind that in the Bharat Mandapam celebration that happened in Delhi, the Gaudiya Math sadhus who had introduced about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's contribution, they had to acknowledge that today all over the world, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj commenced is spread, and everywhere people are talking about Hare Krishna, glories to International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Earlier days when Srila Prabhupada was there, not many people supported Prabhupada. All the Gaudiya Math members felt that Srila Prabhupada is a outcast because he left from Gaudiya Math and started ISKCON. He is a Guru Drohi and gave several names. But now, when they reflect back, when they are understanding the science, when they are seeing the result of it, they are able to appreciate, relate, and acknowledge what Srila Prabhupada has contributed to the whole world. So to an extent that the head of Gaudiya Math acknowledged that it is because of ISKCON also that today various places this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission has spread, and that is because of the gift that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has given. I guess we can go on and on and on, but I guess these were all my little humble offering and glorification towards Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Such a nice,
Hello,
beautiful point by point. Yes. But Prabhupada also wanted, sought the help of the Gaudiya Math sannyasis and the officials, but they never acceded. They didn't respond. So Prabhupada had no option. So Prabhupada didn't. Guru Drohi is not the right thing. Of course, it was otherwise also not. But
that's how some people thought at the earlier stage. They never supported him. They had thought that he left the movement, left Gaudiya Math, and tried to do something independently, and they didn't follow Bhakti. There were opinions. People were throwing at Srila Prabhupada, and he has proven all of them wrong by the results.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from anybody else, or even from you?
Excellent.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectarian class and explaining about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj very nicely. So thank you Prabhuji. We missed you last time, your class, but yeah, now everything is okay. So thank you so much Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Panchakalpataruvascha Kripasindhuveva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य शरणदास ठाकुर की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस ग्रेस राम गिरधारी प्रभु जी की जय। थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Thank you.